Hello, good afternoon to you all. Basically, as Prof. Borch has informed, I will be focusing on Goal 16, which has the very challenging objective of peace, justice, and strong communities. But what is this all about? What is the scope of this target? Well, let's imagine a world without wars, violence, and conflict, abuse and exploitation, corruption and discrimination. This is the very ambitious objective of this SDG, which will basically be implemented through 12 very challenging targets. And we'll be looking at each target in return. Target 1, significantly reduce all forms of violence and related death. As you know, war is the worst form of mass murder. If one looks at the death toll of World War II, it reached around 80 million people, and the present tragedy that is happening in Syria has already taken the lives of more than the Maltese population. Slide number 2, focusing on the end of abuse, exploitation, trafficking, and all forms of violence against children. Basically, children's vulnerability makes them an easy prey for abuse and exploitation, and in fact, the ILO estimates that around 1 million children lived in conditions of modern slavery. Target number 3, promote the rule of law at the national and international level. Basically, this means that nobody should be above the law, and that there are clear separation of powers between the judicial, executive, and judicial systems. Target 4, significantly reduce illicit financial and arms flows. The armaments industry is a huge corrupt industry, which basically makes around $60 billion annually from the death and misery of others, but hopefully we will have the time to cover a bit this issue in more detail. Target 5, substantially reduce corruption and bribery in all their forms. War, instability, and conflict provide fertile grounds for bribery and corruption, and in return, organized crime helps to undertake further violations of human rights and undermine the whole democratic process. Target 6, develop effective, accountable, and transparent institutions at all levels. What does this mean in concrete terms? It means basically that institutions that address and respond to the real needs of the community in the most cost-effective manner. Target 7, ensure responsive, inclusive, participatory, and representative decision-making. Well, the idea of justice goes beyond having just an impartial and fair hearing in a court of justice. It also means having just laws, but also opportunities, resources, and full participation in the governance process. Target 8, broaden and strengthen the participation of developing countries in the institutions of global governance. This is important to narrow down the North-South divide, which is ultimately based on an exploitative relationship between rich and poor countries. Target 9, provide legal identity for all, including birth registration. A birth certificate not only provides a name and nationality, but is a vital issue for securing rights and services such as education and healthcare, and for protecting against exploitation. Unfortunately, around 48 million children are not registered at birth. Target 10, ensure public access to information, protect fundamental freedoms. Unfortunately, in recent years, we have seen attempts at the criminalization of open sources of information. A case in point is the proposed legislation of ACTA and WikiLeaks. Target 11, strengthen relevant national institutions and international cooperation for capacity building against crime and terrorism. Again, unfortunately, peacekeeping missions only get 0.5% of what is actually spent on arms sales. Target 12, and this is the last target, promote and enforce non-discriminatory laws and policies for sustainable development. This is important to take place through the appreciation of diversity in all its forms and greater focus of equity, possibly rather than equality, in order to involve everyone in the democratic and governance process. Well, being the SDG with the most targets and the least means of implementation, SDG 16 has received a lot of criticism. However, it also responds to the criticism of the earlier Millennium Development Goals, which unfortunately did not recognize enough the importance of peace and security for poverty eradication and sustainable development. As you know, there is a very strong relationship between development and peace, or war rather. War, in fact, is attributed to be development in reverse. It not only presents a lot of physical and emotional harm, but it also leads to a lot of economic losses, environmental degradation, and instability. Unfortunately, the world has become less peaceful in the last decade. As you know, the consequences of the Arab Spring, the occupation of Palestine, the refugee crisis in Europe, the terrorist attacks in the heart of Europe, basically we have seen that the world has become less and less peaceful. But wars, violence, and conflict do not happen in a vacuum. Behind the self-evident rationale often lie ulterior corporate interests. A case in point is the oil and armaments industry. It is unfortunately telling to note that the 5 UN Security Council permanent members, that is US, UK, France, Russia, and China, are the largest arms dealers, whereas developing countries are the main recipients. And twice for years, these same countries have sold arms to military dictators and human rights violators. Now the war on terror presents them with an opportunity to continue to expand their profits. And so, therefore, one cannot but question the war for peace policy embedded in its far-right discourse. In Malta, though in Malta we had our fair share of wars, we can consider ourselves lucky that our main conflict lies within our petty partisan peak of red and blue. However, Malta's constitutional clause on neutrality does not make us innocent bystanders in the face of global conflict, but should stimulate us to work actively towards the promotion of peace. Yet, we seem content with welcoming deadly warships for the sake of profit. So why does Goal 16 matters? Basically, without peace and justice, the aspirations of all the other SDGs will be impossible to realize. This, however, demands strong political will and concrete action, which truly values lives before profit and peace before profit. Thank you.